Deep within the heart of every man lies a silent wound, a primal ache that pulses like a forgotten drumbeat, echoing from the cradle of his earliest days. This is the mother wound, a tapestry of unspoken longings, unmet needs, and the subtle fractures born of a mother's human imperfection. Her own unhealed pains, her distracted gaze, her fears woven into the fabric of her love. For men, this wound is a shadow companion, shaping their relationships with women, their sense of self, and their place in the world. It is not a wound to blame on mothers, nor a burden to cast upon the women who walk beside us, but a sacred summons to turn inward, to confront the raw edges of the soul, and to forge a path toward sovereignty. In a world stripped of ancient rituals that once guided boys into manhood, this wound festers, compounded by the father wound, a twin scar of absence or disconnection, and together they whisper, "You are not enough unless you prove it." I write this not to point fingers outward, but to encourage you to journey inward, to reclaim your power through self-reflection, to heal through courage, and to rise into the fullness of your being, transformed. The mother wound is no single moment, but a mosaic of fleeting glances, sharp words, and silences that cut deeper than intended. Picture a boy, small and wide-eyed, reaching for his mother's hand, only to find it preoccupied, or seeking her pride, only to meet a distracted nod. Perhaps she was overwhelmed by her own struggles, a world that demanded too much, a heart heavy with its own wounds, or perhaps she was physically absent, leaving a void where warmth should have been. This wound takes root in the psyche, whispering that love is conditional, that worth must be earned, that to need is to risk rejection. For men it manifests as a hunger, a restless yearning to fill that primal void, often projected onto the women they love, seek, or fear. It is the man who clings to a partner's approval as if it were the breath of life, the man who silences his own desires to keep her smile, the man who rages quietly when love feels like a cage, not because of her, but because of the wound he has not named. But the mother wound doesn't stand alone. It's entwined with the father wound, the absence or failure of a father to guide, to affirm, to model what it means to be a man. Where the mother wound leaves a man craving nurturing, the father wound leaves him unmoored, uncertain of his strength, his purpose, or his place in the world. Do you remember the boy inside you, watching your father retreating back, whether through physical absence, emotional distance, or harsh judgment, and feeling the weight of a question, am I enough? This twin wound amplifies the mother wound, creating a man who seeks validation from women to fill both voids, trading his sovereignty for a love he hopes will make him whole. The father wound teaches him to doubt his power. The mother wound teaches him to doubt his worth. Together they form a silent script that plays out in every relationship, every choice, every moment of self-doubt. In relationships with women, these wounds weave a complex dance. Picture a man, his shoulders broad, but his heart heavy, sitting across from his partner as her voice rises in frustration. Instead of meeting her as an equal, he shrinks, seeking to soothe her, to become the good boy who earns love by pleasing, just as he once sought his mother's approval. He trades his truth for her comfort, his voice for her smile, surrendering his sovereignty in the hope that this time love will stay. Or consider another man, his heart armored, who pushes women away, mistaking isolation for strength, because deep within he fears the vulnerability of needing her, a fear born not of her, but of the mother who could not hold his heart fully, and the father who did not show him how to stand tall. Some men swing between these poles, chasing idealized love one moment, fleeing it the next, convinced that intimacy is a trap. In each case, they give away their power by molding themselves to fit a partner's expectations, by seeking salvation in her arms, or by rejecting love altogether, believing it will cost them their freedom. This loss of sovereignty is most poignant in the pursuit of idealized love, a fantasy that promises to heal both wounds. A man may seek a partner who mirrors the nurturing mother he craved, only to resent her when she cannot fill that bottomless need. He may place her on a pedestal, casting her as a goddess, forgetting she is human, flawed and real. Or he may wield control, demanding she conform to an image of perfection, because the wounds whisper that only a perfect love can make him whole. In these acts, he relinquishes his inner authority, seeking redemption outside himself, as if a woman's love could stitch close the gashes of his past. The tragedy is not in the women he loves, but in the unexamined pain that drives him to trade his power for a fleeting illusion. In ancient times, men were not left to navigate these wounds alone. Classical rites of passage, sacred ceremonies marking the transition from boyhood to manhood, served as alchemical crucibles, transforming the raw material of a boy's wounds into the tempered strength of a man. Led into the wilderness by elders, stripped of the comforts of home, his mother's embrace left behind. Through trials of endurance, solitude, and confrontation with the unknown, he faced his fears, his longing, his need for approval. These rituals severed the umbilical cord to the mother's world, not with cruelty, but with purpose, teaching him that his worth lay within, not in her gaze. Guided by fathers or male elders, he learned to stand in his own power, to carry his own fire, to become a man who could love without clinging, lead without controlling, and live without seeking validation. These rites were a bridge, carrying a boy across the chasm of his wounds into the sovereignty of manhood. In the modern world, these rites are gone, replaced by a culture that leaves men adrift. Without elders to guide them, without trials to forge them, boys grow into men carrying the weight of both the mother and father wounds, uninitiated and unmoored. The absence of these rituals leaves men to seek initiation in fragmented ways. Through work, where success becomes a substitute for worth. Through women, where love becomes a salve for pain. Or through rebellion, where defiance masks the ache of abandonment. The result is a generation of men who struggle to know themselves, who give away their power in relationships, who live half-lives, haunted by wounds they cannot name. The modern world offers no sacred fire, no council of elders, no moment when a boy is called to become a man. Yet the need remains, and the path to healing lies in reclaiming this initiation for oneself. To heal the mother wound, a man must become his own guide, his own elder, his own fire-bearer. The journey begins with self-reflection, a courageous descent into the shadowed forest of the soul. Stand at the edge of this forest, where the trees are woven from memories, a mother's distracted gaze, a father's silence, and light a lantern of awareness. Ask, what did I need that I did not receive? The answer may be a mother's warmth, her unwavering belief, or a father's steady hand, guiding you toward your own strength. Feel the ache, let it rise like a tide, and do not turn away. This is not weakness, but the tender root of your humanity, the soil from which healing grows. Write these truths, raw and unfiltered, as a letter to the boy you were, promising him the love he sought, vowing to carry it forward. Next, trace the threads of these wounds through your life. See them in the moments you give away your power. When you silence your voice to avoid conflict, when you chase a partner's approval at the cost of your truth, when you cling to a relationship as if it were the only source of light. Notice how the mother wound whispers that you must earn love, and the father wound doubts your right to claim it. These patterns are not chains, but signposts, pointing to the wounds that wait to be healed. Map them with compassion, not judgment, and ask, how have I sought love outside myself? How have I traded my sovereignty for approval? In this reflection, you begin to untangle the threads, to see yourself not as a victim, but as a man capable of choosing differently. Healing demands action, a deliberate turning toward the self. Begin with sacred practices, small yet profound. Each morning, sit in silence, letting your thoughts unfold, and ask, what is true for me today? Journal these answers, letting them flow without censor, as a dialogue with your inner child, your inner warrior, your inner king. Seek spaces where men gather, not to lament, but to share, to listen, to hold one another's truths without judgment. These circles, like ancient councils around a fire, remind you that you are not alone, that the wounds are a shared human inheritance. Engage in physical practices that ground you. Run through the forest, lift the weight of stone, feel the earth beneath your feet, as a reminder that your body is a temple, your strength a birthright. If the pain feels too vast, seek a guide, a therapist, a mentor, a wise elder who can walk beside you, not to fix, but to witness, to heal the father wound, reclaim the masculine within. Seek out male role models, living or historical, whose lives embody the strength, integrity, and purpose you aspire to. Study their stories, not to mimic, but to ignite your own inner fire. Create your own rites of passage. Spend a night alone in nature, facing the stars and your fears. Build something with your hands, a tangible act of creation, or commit to a challenge that pushes you beyond your limits, proving to yourself that you are enough. These acts are not escapes, but anchors, grounding you in your own power, teaching you that the Father you sought lives within you. In relationships, healing transforms the dance with the feminine. Instead of seeking a partner to fill the void of mother or father, approach her as a mirror, reflecting both your light and your shadows. When you feel the urge to please or control, pause and ask, is this my wound speaking, or my truth? Honor her humanity, her flaws, her own wounds, and let go of the fantasy that she must save you. Practice speaking your truth, even when it risks conflict, not to wound her, but to stand in your own integrity. Listen to her without the need to fix, love her without the need to possess, and let her be a partner, not a projection. In this release, you reclaim your sovereignty, standing not as a boy seeking approval, but as a man, whole and grounded, capable of loving without losing himself. The mother and father wounds are not curses, but crucibles, forging a man who dares to face his depths. They are the storm that strips away illusion, the fire that burns through fear, the river that carries you toward your own heart. To heal is to become the mother who nurtures your inner child, the father who guides your inner warrior, the king who rules your life with wisdom and grace. Each step inward is a reclamation of power, a refusal to trade your sovereignty for a fleeting promise of love. You are not the wounds, nor the boy who carried them, but the man who chooses to rise, to reflect, to evolve. Stand now at the edge of your own wilderness, lantern in hand, the stars above bearing witness. The path is yours to walk, not in shame, but in courage. The wounds are not your enemies, but your teachers, guiding you toward a love that begins within. Let each step be a vow, to see yourself clearly, to honor your own heart, to become the man who needs no external light to shine. In this journey you will find not just healing, but a life reclaimed, a life where love is not a transaction, but a gift, freely given, from a soul that knows its own worth. You are the initiate, the elder and the king. Step forward and claim the man you were born to be.